Welcome to another edition of What's Next. It's a great to be chatting to a man who's heading up an organization that's been around for a long time. Certainly in my lifetime, I've dealt with them with a pager, a mobile phone, copiers and faxes. I'm talking about Nashua, and it's great to welcome Barry Fento, who's the CEO of Nashua. Barry, if I stand to be corrected, you guys are more than 4 decades old.
That's correct. How are you doing, Aki?
Very good, thank you. Good to chat to you.
To be correct, it's about 47 years this year.
Oh, okay. Wow. It's certainly a long time, and it's a crazy time that we're living in if you had to go back in time. And I'm sure that Nashua has seen interesting challenges, but nothing like COVID-19 that's brought the world to its knees, basically, and forced us all to think out of the box. So firstly, as the CEO of Nashua, how has COVID-19 treated you? I imagine that you've been running your company remotely for a large portion of the lockdown time and dealing with your customers remotely. Can you paint us a picture of Nashua, your personal life, your customers? How's it been for you guys?
Yeah, sure. So maybe to start from a personal experience, and for me, the first thing the children of South Africa I feel the most for. I think they've lost quite a bit in terms of lost life experiences. And then from a learning's point of view, it's really been to find the balance between the work life and the personal life. There's suddenly no more boundaries. And I think as people, we've got a lot to learn in terms of respecting people's time and boundaries. And then further to find new innovative ways of how to keep people involved, how to really manage remotely with different styles and approaches. I think the traditional way of doing it is long gone, and I think the new normal will set new challenges for us in that space. But just from a culture point of view, you were talking about Nashua. I mean, it was very early in the initial lockdown where we soon realized that people requires social interaction. And people want to feel part of something. They want to understand what is going on. So we started enabling platforms such as Microsoft Teams, and then we complemented that with something like a platform such as WhatsApp for instant messaging, for trying to send some tips and tricks in terms of how to deal with these uncertain times, how to deal with the anxiety and the stress that people also face suddenly in their personal lives. And then in terms of training for management and how do you start managing remotely? I mean, yesterday you had the team in the meeting room. Tomorrow, everyone is remote and you had to start managing online in real time. So that posed some challenges, but it's really around the engagement and the involvement and keeping people informed as to what's going on. And I think that's been the biggest drive for us was the safety of our people and the engagement with them as well.
It's so interesting you say that, many of the CEOs that I talk to have said something similar to you, because a lot of people had these, all of a sudden, everybody started working remotely and people kind of forgot that, there was staff out there and you kind of lost connection. People felt alienated. And I think that what you touched on now in terms of company culture is very, very interesting. So good on you for having that as the top of mind awareness within your organization. Your customers must have been an interesting one, because you guys are a franchise. You've got customers all over the place, and of course you've mentioned that your business has evolved a lot. So it's not just you're not just doing copiers, for example, and printing and that sort of stuff. You've got customers doing all sorts of things. So how did that work, running that remotely?
So we were fortunate enough that very early in 2020 we started planning for these type of situations as and when it's going to happen, because it was a bit of an uncertainty. We were classified as an essential service provider in supporting our customers through this period. I mean, we had a lot of customers in logistics. We've got customers in the medical field that had to continue with operations. And therefore, we started working with them to help them operationalize their staff to work from home and or remotely through providing bundled solutions and bundled offerings in terms of what the requirements were. But on top of that, very interesting that came about was the PPE equipment that everyone got involved in. But for us was thermal solutions in preparing the workplace from a proactive perspective in terms of the scanning, the access control, and the censoring to make sure that people are healthy and fit to enter these environments, because that was quite, and still is quite an important concept. And then from a trends perspective, I mean, we had to adapt as a team to things like video and collaboration 24/7 on different platforms, Teams, Zoom, etc. And then from a servicing and selling point of view, sales team's point of view, was how do we engage customers remotely? How do we have those conversations and continue the relationships remotely, which was interesting. And towards the end, I would say level 3, we started dealing with a very different concept, and that was our customers' premises being locked overnight, you know, where they had to go and sanitize, and then 48 hours later, they're operational again. So you had to deal with all these different dynamics and find ways in terms of business continuity, which was both challenging, interesting, but I think we're getting there, and we all need to know how do we build into this new normal, wherever it's going to land. I don't think anyone knows.
No. And I mean, you're talking resilience and agility over there, which is insane. You know, there's just the unpredictability of this whole thing. But I read something that Nashua talks about the low touch economy. What do you mean by the low touch economy?
So we've been working quite a few months before COVID, and it wasn't because of COVID. It was really in how do we take our service delivery to the next level? How do we get more efficient? And how do we, you know, having to enter customers' premises less frequently? So we started developing our own IoT platforms that enables proactive servicing, which monitors the health of the different equipment, be it a smart or non-smart device. You know, self-healing concepts in terms of the PC or the server, or even the DVR from a surveillance perspective, and then complement that with some asset management for the SME. I mean, that's something that really adds value to their businesses. But then during COVID, we managed to implement no-touch signing solutions for our deliveries to customer, as well as incident closures. And then lastly, Aki, something I would like to mention is we implemented for ourselves workflow and electronic signature solutions to continue with the business. And we very quickly learned, obviously the customers has got the same requirement. So in terms of how do we digitize and implement workflows from a continuity perspective, together with signing solutions that enables them to continue signing contracts, signing invoices without having to engage face-to-face, which helps with that easy continuation of their environments.
So it sounds to me like your developers and your organization has really been adapting quite a bit over the last couple of years. You mentioned earlier something about, you know, the different workplace and different workplace solutions, for example. Tell us about this approach of you providing these services. And essentially what you're wanting to do here is you want to make businesses work smarter, right?
We would like to make businesses work smarter, and the way we went about it, the strategy initially started as a total office provider, and we very soon realized, you know, it needs to be more flexible and agile, because people work from anywhere nowadays, not just because of COVID. I mean, people could work from a mug and bean, they work from home, people are traveling all the time through regions as well as countries. So the question was, how do we enable them to do that through the computing device, connectivity, and soon thereafter we realized it's actually bigger than that, is let's secure the environment through surveillance solutions. We can extend the surveillance solutions into the fleet. And then on top of that is providing the voice, the connectivity, and the latest development that we've had is to complement that with business continuity services in alternative energy. You know, and all these products and solutions connects to the internet, which really integrates into the cloud, making it possible to remote service and continue to support the low touch or no touch economy that we are all talking about, which is very exciting for us.
No, it's interesting you mentioned, I just talked to people, and it's amazing that people working remotely, there's like two of the big things that they have a concern with. I mean, the technology is number one. Connectivity doesn't seem to come up very highly as it would have, say, 5 years ago. I think we kind of done that. But, you know, things like chairs and monitors, that they want a more comfortable chair and another monitor, for example. But the energy solutions that you touched on, I think, when we've had these energy and electricity problems with Eskom, and that's been a big challenge, hasn't it, for many customers continuing their businesses. How do you guys get around that?
It's been a major challenge, I think, for all businesses, and I think especially during COVID, if you look at the lost productivity due to load shedding at people's homes.
I didn't want to mention that swear word, but seeing that you've mentioned the swear word load shedding, please go ahead.
You know, you lose 2 to 3 hours per person just in productivity. So the solutions we've designed again or partnered with is again scalable. So we start with small battery backup solutions in UPS to bigger battery solutions, and we extend that into proper off-grid PV solutions. You know, so depends on your requirement and your need. It's initially to ensure continuity through the initial lockdown periods, and then if you want to extend it into off-grid solutions, we will work with you and we'll scale that into that environment for you. So very exciting.
Barry, where are you playing at the moment in terms of your customer base? I mean, you talk about the franchise, you've got people and you've got organizations all over the place, and yet you're offering these solutions, these total workspace solutions to continue the business continuity. So which sector of the market are you going for? The big guys, small, medium-sized businesses? Where are you playing?
So our focus is predominantly in the SME market, and we like to say that we provide enterprise-grade services to the SME market. And the reason we say that, we'll start working with you as a one-man business and grow with you and scale with you up to a 500,000-man business. And the solutions we offer is really at enterprise grade, not only because of the solutions, but the partner selection, and we can service them with our amazing franchise channel that we've got spread across the environment. So these solutions aren't designed for small scale businesses, but we certainly offer them to those small companies, and we would like to partner with them and enable them to grow into bigger enterprise type environments if possible.
I mean, you mentioned things like AOT. I would imagine you cover things like big data analytics, for example. I mean, if you look at the cloud, I mean, you were talking now about Teams and all of these different platforms. Imagine if this happened, I don't know, 5 years ago when the cloud wasn't as mature as it is now. It would have been a different story. So I imagine that cloud is very much in your strategy as well.
Cloud is definitely part of our strategy, and I think any IT player today has got it part of their strategy, but also businesses out there. You know, cloud from not only a flexibility point of view, but understanding, you know, when you talk about big data, really understanding the data that you've got available, and how do you utilize that in order to grow and build your business going forward. You know, if it wasn't for these type of technologies, I think COVID would have been an absolute tragedy, because we wouldn't have been able to operate in this manner.
Don't even want to think about it, Barry. It's interesting you talk about Nashua and how old. I mean, Nashua is more than 4 decades old, and it's interesting to watch you guys evolving. I mean, I've been to your building. I've seen the development teams that you've got. You've got some very smart people working there, and it's interesting to see how you guys are moving into the ICT space. Where do you see it going in the next 3 to 5 years? Where do you see Nashua evolving even further?
Yeah, so Aki, I'm not going to talk about the actual products or solutions, but our vision is really to be the ICT partner of choice within the SME market. I mean, as I said, we pride ourselves in providing enterprise-grade services to this specific SME market, and we'll continue to build on our brand promise of saving you time, saving you money, and putting you first. You know, and we'll continue to build relationships through the channel, understand your requirements, and build scalable solutions for your specific needs.
You got to do that properly. Saving you time, saving you, putting you first. Was it Orson Welles that did that video for you guys? That's an extraordinary memory you just brought back. And just talking about that, and the evolution, I spoke about pages, but I was just thinking now about fax machines. I met somebody the other day who still uses a fax machine. Do you have customers that are still using fax machines?
Yes, I think I mentioned to you earlier, we've probably got about 2,000 customers still making use of standalone fax machines. And then we still have a requirement as part of the MFP environment where people still insist on fax as a module to the environment. And today when you deal with some of the legal teams in the enterprise space, they still require the fax. They don't accept the email or the image to be sent through. So very interesting. When I moved to Nashua across from Nashua Mobile, I was amazed to see the number of faxes still out in the market.
That's extraordinary. That's extraordinary. Very interesting times we're living in. What's been your aha moment during this lockdown period? Have you had a revelation? I know you mentioned a lot about how you worked with your teams, for example. What's the one thing that has stood out for you during this lockdown period? As a business leader, maybe something that you've learned that you thought, interesting.
I've had two aha moments, Aki. The initial one was when we first utilized the Microsoft Teams as well as Zoom platforms, at a global scale where we had hundreds of people in one session without any interruption. We could get the message through. For me, that was really showed the scalability of these environments and the possibilities that you could achieve if utilizing them correctly. The second one was around the resilience of our people. Not only Nashua staff, but the market out there, the South African community, the people globally, in terms of what can be achieved. And if you look at the positive mindsets of people coming out of this, it's just been absolutely amazing. And because it's been difficult, tough times, but people survive and people make a plan and people drive hard to get out of this. And that for me has been absolutely fantastic to see.
Just awesome, inspirational stuff. Barry Venter, the CEO of Nashua, thank you so much for joining us. Wishing you guys every success and interesting times that we're living in, and you guys certainly adapting. And I guess we're never going to go back to the way things were before. I mean, many of these changes that you've been talking about are here to stay for good. So we wish you and Nashua all the very best. Thank you for your time, Barry.
Thank you, Aki. Same to you. Keep safe.
Cheers.